Hello and welcome back to Beckler Guitars and Repair. And today we've got a pretty special guitar on the channel. Just look at this thing. So this is a custom built Explorer by a Canadian luthier in the 80s. And this just popped up on my Facebook Marketplace one day, so I definitely had to take a look. And it's got some really crazy specs on it. It's gorgeous, it's really well made, super high quality. It's got 7 switches on there that I have no idea what they do. I haven't plugged this thing in yet. I kind of wanted to document the whole process on camera. It's got 25 frets. It's got a locking nut with a 0 fret nut and a really crazy trem. And it feels great. So today I'm going to take this thing apart, kind of see what makes it tick, what all the parts are, see if there's any problems with it, any repairs that need to be made. Then I'm going to set it up and then we're going to do a playing demo. Let's check it out. So yeah, I found this on Facebook Marketplace and it looked too interesting not to check out. And then when I was checking it out, I just noticed it was super high quality. It was a really, really nice guitar. So we came to a deal and I took it home. And it came in this gigantic case. This thing is huge. I'm just going to measure it really quick. So yeah, it's 2 feet by 3 feet 6 inches. So 3.5 feet. And I think it might be like a repurposed double neck case, because I've seen double neck cases, electric cases that are similar in size, but the entire interior is custom made. Like they redid the entire interior to fit this guitar. It's got like a custom molded fit in there. It's a huge case. It fits the guitar nicely. It's perfectly molded there. I like this part. They even made like a space where you can pick the guitar up, so you have like room for your hands to get in there. Otherwise you don't have to like worry about trying to fish it out of there, which is a pretty neat idea. So it came with this like leather strap with a little pocket on there for picks. Kind of a vintage cool strap. It's got strap locks on there as well, with these like tassels which are on the back of the guitar. It's got the trem arm, which fits into this really unique bridge trem system I haven't seen before. So we'll get into that. Some old strings, but this is the coolest part. It comes with a bunch of old electronics and a breadboard. So I did plug this in briefly, and none of the switches seem to work. So I think this was like the old original electronics. Maybe the new owner took it out because it wasn't working properly, or they didn't like it. I'm not really sure. But what I think this probably originally did was something to do with all those 7 switches that are currently on the guitar. So yeah, we'll have to take it apart, open it up, and see what's actually in there now. When I did plug it in, all the pickups are working, the standard controls work, but a lot of the switches were not working. So I'm not really sure what's hooked up or what's going on inside. So it functions normally as like a regular guitar. You've got your neck pickup, bridge, and middle with a volume, tone, but the switches don't seem to do anything. So anyway, we'll have a look later. But this guitar is gorgeous. It's super like rounded, and it's got that really cool Explorer shape. And this is a through neck guitar. So this is actually made of zebra wood and babinga, and I know the specifics of this guitar because when I originally got this guitar, I posted in the Facebook Edmonton, which is the area that I'm in Alberta, Canada, in the guitar groups, and I just posted this guitar, and I knew the name of the luthier from the previous owner. It was Rick Johnson, so I posted this picture with his name and just asked if anybody knew about him or any information, and lo and behold, one of his friends happened to see it. I got in touch with Rick through email, and he confirmed a bunch of details about this guitar. So he built this in 1984. He built this for a music store, which was Mother's Music in Edmonton, Alberta, which is no longer a store. but it was a really cool music store that a lot of musicians love to go to, and he built it specifically for them. It's a through neck with Babinga as the neck slash body, and then it's got these huge pieces of zebra wood that were glued on to the through neck for the wings. That's a similar construction to like a Firebird. It's got a nitro finish. He didn't mention what the pickups were. He couldn't remember, so we're going to take it apart and have a better look at that. I'm not sure what this trem is, but we're going to have a look. And again, three-way pickup selector, volume tone tone, or volume tone. I can't quite remember, but we'll double check that. It's got a couple little mini potentiometers here that I'm not sure what they do, and 4 switches, which I'm not sure what they do either. It's got metal pickup rings, an ebony fingerboard with real mother of pearl inlay, and this is a 25 fret guitar, so 2 full octaves and 1 more fret. It's got a locking nut, 0 fret. I really like the design of the headstock. It's kind of like a Flying V-esque, but you've got really nice straight string pull. And then there's his logo, which is like a water slide decal under the finish there, and it says Edge Guitars. Let's give it a quick flip. Here's a look at the back. Yeah, this zebra wood just looks great. Really nice grain. Zebra wood's just a gorgeous wood. And originally I thought this was like a Brazilian rosewood because it's really streaky and it kind of has that rosewood look, but he confirmed it was Babinga, which is another really nice wood. And we've got this huge cavity on the back that I haven't opened up yet, so looks like we're missing a few screws, but I should be able to have some in my parts that I can replace. We've got a cavity here, smaller cavity there. I think that's for the switch. And the neck feels great. It's got that worn-in nitro feel where it gets kind of very smooth over the years, and it's kind of a skinny little kind of a shredder neck. Usually I like thicker necks, but this one does feel good. And then we've got our Schaller machine heads and some Allen keys for the guitar. One other thing I noticed was we've got a little serial number here. So it actually says 001. So I'm not sure if that's the first guitar that Rick made to be sold at a store. Maybe that's why it's serialized. A lot of luthiers don't use serial numbers, especially if they're just, you know, hobbyists or they're just building a few a year. But I think if you're selling to like a store, they need to have some sort of record of a serial number. So that might be why this one's serialized. But anyway, super cool, very unique 80s guitar. I love the Explorer look, and this is just pretty much the coolest Explorer I've ever come across. So I'm happy to document it. So let's go ahead and get it on the bench and have a look at some of the specs. All right, weighing in at 10 pounds, 8.9 ounces, which is pretty heavy. It doesn't feel that heavy. I think it feels lighter because it's really well balanced. But I don't think there's any like weight relief in this guitar at all. I think it's just solid wood. So that explains why it's a little heavier. All right, let's get our pickup readings. So the bridge is reading a pretty hot 13.63. The neck, even hotter, 14.64. And the middle is reading a 7.06. So I'm just messing around with the controls to try to see what everything does here. So in the bridge position, it looks like the first knob is the bridge volume, which is strange. Typically those are reversed. Maybe the switch is backwards, but we'll find out more when we plug it in. And then, so in the bridge position, this works as a split. So this is a coil split for the bridge. Let's see what this does. This does nothing to the bridge. And this switch doesn't appear to work. It doesn't switch, it's just really loose. And this switch doesn't do anything. Neither does this, neither does this. Okay, so in the bridge position, the volume and the coil split. In the neck position, this is the volume, and this is the coil split. Alright, I plugged it in just to double check, and actually this switch is in the right position. It corresponds to the right pickups. The controls are just reversed. So the front one is the bridge and the back one is the pickup. I'm sure you could easily switch that around with the soldering in the back if that bothers you. But I don't mind it. I'm just going to leave it as is. Alright, I've done a little bit more research on this tremolo, and this is actually a German-made Rockinger True Tone tremolo. It's actually the world's first fine-tuning tremolo system. That's what these little fine-tuners are in the back. So similar to like a Floyd Rose, but apparently these guys did it first. Anyway, these are pretty cool tremolo systems. They're pretty sought after these days, and they fetch a lot of money used. So pretty cool. And it looks like the Rockinger company still exists, and you can buy parts for this tremolo even today. The way this works is the strings string through in the back. You've got your fine tuners, like on a Floyd Rose, and then you've got your locking portion up by the nut here. And I'm assuming there are springs and a trim block in the back. So functions very similar to like a Floyd Rose, but they're supposed to be very, very sturdy and robust. And I put the trim on arm to take it out, and it looks like it only bends one way. You can't go up. Let's have a look at the pickups. Okay. So, okay, these are Seymour Duncans in here. Look like vintage 80s Seymour Duncans. And the model is DCM. So this is an old 80s Seymour Duncan SH5, which is like a medium output ceramic magnet pickup. These are great. That's a nice quality pickup he put in there. And just take a quick look at the route here. So yeah, the route is nice and clean. You can see it's right into the Babinga. You can also see a little piece of zebra wood right at the edge there. So yeah, there's no chambering going on in this. These are just nice big thick pieces of exotic wood. They look pretty good. All right, let's have a look at the neck pickup. So this is another Duncan Custom SH5. So this is a Duncan Custom set SH5 from the 80s. So pretty cool. And then our neck pickup route also looks nice and clean. You can see, yeah, the through neck there. So there's no tenon because the whole thing is basically one piece. But it looks nice and clean. This was likely made as like an 80s shred machine. You know, with the ceramic pickups and the thin shredder neck. It definitely has an 80s vibe. Let's have a look at the electronics. So there was this giant cavity cover on the back. It covers the trim cavity and the control cavity and one piece. So yeah, that's kind of neat. And here's a look at the electronics. So yeah, it looks a little bit more crudely routed than the pickup cavities. Probably because there was just a giant area to route, so they had to keep going in and taking off more material. That's a lot of material that they had to take out. But you can see that it's got some crazy wiring here. So yeah, we've got volume, tone. We've got a barrel jack, which is the output jack. And then we've got our pickup splits here. So this is our bridge split, and that's our neck split. But the rest of the electronics are not wired up. So those two switches beside those are not wired up to anything. And then these two little like mini trim pots things that come out the front, those little tiny ones, are not connected to anything either. So what I'm thinking is that breadboard was originally in here with a bunch of effects probably. And then those were powered by a battery. That's why we have this little cavity here. So I'm assuming you would put the 9 volt in this top cavity, and then it would power the breadboard for the additional effects that you had. But someone simplified the wiring. I don't know why. Maybe the breadboard wasn't working, or who knows. But it looks like that was all removed, and right now it just does the coil splits for the neck and the bridge pickup. And I tried to date the pots, but these are not CTS pots. These are actually DiMarzio pots, so it just says DiMarzio. So that's cool. I don't think I've ever seen DiMarzio pots before. Something cool you could do with this guitar, you could utilize all this extra space in here and put in your own effects. It looks like there is an extra hole drilled here. I see maybe there was some sort of stereo out or maybe a MIDI out that was originally on there. You can see on the side there is an extra hole here that is not being used, but it goes into the control cavity. So there must have been a reason for it at some point. You could put like active pickups in because it's got a nice little spot for your battery. Or they have those new pots that are actually effects that you put right into your guitar, and they're just like a pot with like a fuzz effect or like a distortion effect. I was looking at those the other day. That would work really well for this guitar because you could just plop in your effects. You'd have your extra ports there, and you could power it with a 9-volt battery in the cavity. So yeah, lots of options, but for now I'm just going to leave it the way it came to me. And here's a better look at our trim cavity. Basically, yeah, it's pretty standard. And you've actually got our pickup wire behind the trim block as well. It appears to be a brass trim block and a brass screw plate here too. And here's a look at the pickup switch route. Just a tiny little route, kind of just barely fits the switch in there. And then that's routed through here and goes into the cavity. Let's just get some neck specs while the neck is off here. So the width of the nut, the skinny 1.63 inches or 41.57 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that's a 1.97 inches or a 50.06 millimeters. And neck depth at the first fret is a 0.73 inches or an 18.57 millimeters. And at the 12th fret, that is a 0.83 inches or a 21.16 millimeters. The scale length is 25.5 and the neck radius is 12 inches. And here's a look at the neck profile. It's really like a flat D profile, and it stays quite flat all the way up to the 12th. So it's kind of a narrow, skinny D neck. Before I restring and set this up, I just want to take a quick minute to go over condition. So yeah, it's got a really nice rounded shape here. It's like the Explorer shape, but super rounded over, nice and sculpted. And this guitar's in really nice shape for its age. If you look at the top in the light here, you can see some spots where some sort of something reacted with the nitro a little bit. Could have been some sort of spray or something at some point. But there's no major scratches or dings, and you can only really see that if you get it right into the light. Yeah, the wood grain is gorgeous. I also noticed this. It looks like the bridge was screwed in a different position at some point. So that might have been moved back a little bit just for intonation purposes. Or I'm not really sure why they would be there other than a mistake. But yeah, there's two little tiny screw holes underneath the front of the bridge here. And the ebony for the fingerboard is super like worn in. It's got that really nice like glassy ebony feel that these fingerboards get when they've been used a lot. Feels great. And it's got real mother of pearl dot inlays. The frets are kind of wide and flat. I think that's kind of the style at the time. In the 80s, there's still lots of life left on these frets. There's a couple small, very small divots that you can kind of see in the light, but overall, lots of life left on these frets. And I gave them a quick polish and cleaned them up a little bit. And then just a look at the headstock. Headstock's super clean. You can see the water slide decal that was put on underneath the finish. And then we've got like a shark tooth style truss cover made of ebony. And it's just the dual action truss rod style. It's nice and responsive. Still works great. And then that's a look at our 0 fret there and our locking nut. Flipping it over to the back, it's again in really nice shape. If you get it in the light, you can see some light scuffs and scratching, but it doesn't have any of that reacted stuff in the front. And we've got the extra hole here by our output jack. I'm not sure what that would have originally been, but I'm assuming it had something to do with the electronics, maybe a MIDI out or who knows. But there is another unused hole there. Missing a few screws in the cavity cover here. I'm going to try to see what I have that might match some of the screws on there. And look at our neck. Neck's in good shape. A couple small little dimples and impressions. And we've got our strap locks. It comes with that leather strap with the strap locks. I think they're Schaller strap locks. And the Babinga neck. And just a look at our German Schaller machine heads. These are great machine heads. They're nice and light and super tight. They work really well. Yeah, really nice condition for the age. I'm going to go ahead and restring this and set it up, and then we can check the setup. Well, this guitar came really well set up, so I didn't have to do much for the setup. But you can see using my notch straight edge that there's not much of a gap between the straight edge and the fingerboard, so that tells me that the neck is nice and straight. And then over here in the 3rd fret area, so the 0 fret really helps with this because it's got a really nice low action over here. So when I use the 3rd fret, you can see that the string is just touching that 1st fret. So that tells us that we've got a nice straight neck with not a lot of relief in there, and the 0 fret nut is working as it should. Action at our 12th fret. So this bridge is pretty much decked down all the way. There's not a real big way to adjust the bridge. You can only adjust the saddles. The saddles have got these grub screws that allow you to go up or down, but they're pretty much down all the way. So the action on this is about as low as it can go. So let's just see what that looks like. So at our 12th fret, on our low E string, it's sitting at just about a 1.25, maybe a tiny bit lower. And then on our high E string, that's closer to about a 1. So that's a tiny bit higher action than I usually like, but it's still quite low. I'm just gonna go through the fingerboard here to make sure there's no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. I like to speed up this part, but if you want to hear it in real time, just slow down your player to 25%. Nice slow action, no buzzing or fretting out anywhere. The fretwork is really, really well done. It has kind of those fat, like flat, wide frets. So they're low profile wide frets that were popular in the 80s. The neck feels hugely long. Like I have to extend my arm out like almost all the way to get to the end because it's a 25 fret neck. So it feels crazy long. But the guitar itself feels nice and comfortable, and it sits in your lap really, really comfortably, kind of like this. Yeah, it's nice and easy to play sitting down. Acoustically, the guitar sounds nice. You can hear it on my lapel mic here. And there's tons of sustain. It just rings out for a very long time. I can still feel it vibrating. And the whole guitar vibrates a lot when you play. You can feel it everywhere. The headstock, the horns, and you can feel it in your chest as you play it too. So yeah, it's a very nice resonant guitar. Alright, super cool guitar. It's really well built and with quality stuff, and it plays and sounds nice. acoustically. Let's go ahead and plug this thing in and see how it sounds. Alright, today I'm plugged into my Marshall JCM 2000 DSL 50, and I'm running that to a 412 cab, which is a 1960 Marshall cab with 4 greenback Celestions. I'm just going to be using the natural distortion in the amp, so I'm going to be running it clean, and then with a little bit of dirt, and then with some higher gain. I'm using an SM57 to mic up one of the speakers of the 412 cab, and I'm using an AT2020 condenser mic for the room. Yeah, some really nice tones, clean, very usable. Coil splits sound pretty good as well. And yeah, very nice. Let's go ahead and try it with a little bit of dirt. All right, what are my final thoughts on this crazy custom-built 80s Explorer from a Canadian luthier? This guitar is pretty amazing. I mean, the attention to detail and the craftsmanship is really, really nice. I mean, look at that carve on that Explorer. Super rounded, and just the wood choices are incredible to look at. Got that really gorgeous zebra wood with the Babinga. It's a through neck design, which is really cool. And just really dark, glassy ebony for the fingerboard. It's just gorgeous to look at. And it plays great. It's the neck might not be my style of neck. It's really, you know, narrow and skinny, but it's super fast. It plays great. No buzzing out anywhere. The fretwork is like immaculate. It feels very long because this neck is huge. It's a 25 fret guitar. So you've got access to a full 2 octaves and then one more. It's got a really cool Rockinger trim, which is cool. It seems to work really well. I don't really use trim on my videos, but when I was testing it before I was playing, it's rock solid. It works really well. It stays in tune great. The old Seymour Duncan custom pickups sounded excellent, clean or dirty. They sounded really articulate, clean. They took like overdrive really, really well. You can get a really nice bluesy, rocky tone out of them. But then they handled like that really heavy distortion really good as well. So I mean, it's a super versatile guitar and just made of quality components. Seems like everything on this guitar was top of the line back in the day when it was made. It's got the Schaller tuners that worked great. It's got the locking nut. I really would have loved to see what all these switches did back when it was totally original and with the breadboard still installed. But again, it does provide a lot of options on this guitar because there's a big cavity back here where you could put in other effects. You could use those like pot style effects and put these in this guitar, and then you'd have all these onboard effects. There's even a spot for your battery as well. Overall, I was really impressed with the build quality and just the overall shape it's in. And I mean, this is truly a one-of-a-kind guitar. It's really cool. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you for tuning into Beckler Guitars and Repair, and I'll have more for you really soon.